Please welcome our panel, Esports and the Collegiate Experience, Providing Pathways and Foundations.
Obviously. All right, thank you. My name is Rebecca Dixon. I am CEO and co-founder of The Gamers. We are a media platform, community, and social network for women who game and women who work in the gaming industry or want to work in the gaming industry. Really excited to be here today to talk about collegiate esports. We have an incredible panel. I will quickly introduce them. Joey Gawrysiak, Director and Professor of Esports, Shenandoah University. Next we have Grant Paranjape, VP Esports Business at Washington Justice. Neil Duffy, CRO at eFuse. And Sari, Kitelyn, Executive Director of Esports and Project Development at Full Sail University. So thought maybe a great way to kick it off, I just gave your names and your titles, but maybe if each of you want to just introduce yourself a little further and give a little background. You want to kick it off, Joey?
I'd love to. Yeah, Joey Gawrysiak, but it's easier to say Joey G. It's so much easier than Gawrysiak. My name sounds like a sneeze. I'm the Director of Esports at Shenandoah University, where I oversee the academic and the competitive part of the program. We do offer an esports major. We've had it for about 3 years now. Happy to talk about what that is like and what goes into that, and Grant's been an integral part of that. And oversee, like I said, the competitive varsity side. I'm also the chair of the board of directors for the National Association of Collegiate Esports, or NACE right now. And I started a group a few years ago to work with other colleges and universities and high schools to develop their programs called Esports Development and Growth Enterprise. So we work with schools on curriculum, on facilities, as well as building competitive programs at the K-12 and the higher ed level. So been involved in higher ed for a long time. I'm a professor by trade. My background's in sport management from University of Georgia, go Dogs. So if I say y'all, that's why, it's because I'm from Georgia. But really excited to be here. This is a great group right here, so the less I talk, the better, because they know far more than I do about what's going on.
Grant?
Man, I don't know how I get to follow that up. So hey everyone, my name is Grant Paranjape. I'm the Vice President here at the Washington Justice. We are your local Overwatch League franchise here for DC, Maryland, and Virginia. I've been in esports almost 8 years now, worked at a variety of teams ranging from Splice, got recruited to come work here in DC for Monumental, led their esports program for 2 years. So I am the professional esports person who has snuck his way onto a collegiate program, panel, excuse me. But like Joey mentioned, I've been working with him in Shenandoah for a while. We do a lot of work with local colleges here at the Justice, and we'll give my best kind of professional take on the collegiate world.
Thanks, Grant. Good morning, everyone. My name is Neil Duffy. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at eFuse. Just like Grant, I've been in the esports space for 8 years. I started off 2014 trying to build what I consider to be a collegiate esports ecosystem. That was really tough to do back then. That was the first scholarship program. Robert Morris got announced in 2014, the first and only at the time. And then in 2015, I acquired a business called the Collegiate Star League, CSL Esports, which I oversaw and ran for 5 years. In 2020, we sold that to a private equity firm, and I was able to join the startup eFuse, which is a destination for gamers to meet, compete, and get discovered. Underneath the eFuse umbrella, we operate the Collegiate Call of Duty League, College Carball Association, and the College Fortnite League.
And Sari.
Sari, Kitelyn. I oversee the esports program at Full Sail University. For those that don't know, Full Sail is based in Orlando, Florida, and it is a college that focuses on entertainment, media, arts, and technology. So all of our degree programs are focused on the entertainment industry. We've had degree programs in game design and development for about 30 years now, so our campus has always been pretty inundated with gamers. And the transition to a formalized esports effort was natural. So I've been with Full Sail about 16 years now. I started building the esports program in about early 2015. Our program itself does have a varsity component. We have 9 varsity teams that do compete against other colleges. Our program is primarily focused on careers in the industry. Because we are an entertainment media focused institution, And we view esports as an evolution of the entertainment industry. So many of our grads really had started working in this space and almost kind of led us there. So our students on campus were already finding colleges to compete against, and our grads were already working in this space. And so we put together our program, got a multi-tiered approach to kind of how we pursue esports, with the primary being finding what you're going to school for and your love of esports, and seeing how those two things can combine for a career in this space.
Thank you, all of you. I think because we're here at at a conference where there are a lot of esports professionals and also some students, why don't we start off by talking about how collegiate esports can prepare you for a career, or what skills that you learn in esports, how they're relevant. I know that Grant and Joey, both of you kind of mentioned working together on that specifically, and I love, Joey, that you talked about the curriculum at the school being relevant. I know some schools have that, some schools don't. So maybe if you want to kick off this part of the conversation, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely happy to. And yeah, careers is a big focus, and Sari even mentioned this too. Like, you've got to look at what the careers, what the outcomes are for students, and not to think of education as a transaction, because we got to get away from that model of looking at education, because education continues to evolve in K-12, yes, but in higher ed in particularly, because what's called the academic cliff coming up in 2025, where a lot of students aren't seeing a path to go to college. But I think what esports can offer is a path to education as an opportunity that wasn't previously there, but can also prepare them for careers. And it's not careers just in esports. Yes, we have an esports major, and it's great. And we've been around for 3 years, constantly evolving that one, trying to figure out the best way to approach esports as an academic discipline. And Grant's been a big part of that in teaching a number of the courses and telling us what kind of skills students should get, what kind of things they need to look at. But a lot of those are transferable skills that are preparing students not just to work in esports, but work outside of esports. But they're getting that education, the skills, through something that they love, something they're passionate about. So that's the way that we approach it. And we also approach it in a very hands-on, experiential way. I mean, you'll look around here. It's hard for me to see because these lights are really bright. But I've got 4 students here somewhere. And they're helping this event today because not that this is a class they're taking, but through the program, they're understanding the value of getting that hands-on learning, getting to actually do instead of just talk about or learn about in a classroom, which is great. And I tell students all the time, go to class, get good grades, study. It's finals week this week, so y'all make sure you're studying. But doing things like this is what separates them from everybody else and prepares them for a career upon graduation. Again, whether it's in esports or through esports that we're helping them do that. But the skills of networking and how to have a conversation, it's like selling your personal brand. I mean, that's incredibly important when you get out in the job marketplace, how to talk about yourself, how to approach people and have those conversations. So that's what they're here for, and that's what they're gonna be doing throughout this whole thing. They're listening to me be a professor right now. Throughout this entire thing today is get these skills that help you get a job when you graduate. And yes, we are teaching them traditional business ideas, event management. We do talk about problem solving. We talk about how to work in a group. We talk about adaptability and communication, all of those that are transferable skills across different industries. We just present it through that lens of esports because it's a sexy topic. It's fun to talk about, and it's relatable for these students in a way that wasn't previously relatable. And you can talk about the management side, you can talk about the broadcast production side, the coaching side, the fitness and wellness side, the game design side. I know that's not really esports, but there's a component of game design within esports and the wider gaming industry, obviously. So all those different areas that you can now approach through this interdisciplinary nature that esports has to offer, and that's really appealing to collegiate administration, high school administration, but most importantly, it's appealing to learners, current and future learners. We're meeting them where they are, where their passions are, preparing them with skills to then be productive citizens when they graduate through that lens of esports as an educational opportunity. There's a lot more to esports and gaming than just esports and gaming. And that's something that we preach to our students all the time. And I'm going to shut up now and let Grant talk.
I was going to say, I have no idea how I follow up your entire philosophy on teaching esports, Joey. But no, I think Joey brought up a lot of important points. You know, when I think about esports majors or esports in an academic setting, it's really tough, right? It's just a huge challenge. You know, esports changes so rapidly. You know, you could say something in a class and I'm going to pick on Halo. You could be teaching about HCS, and in a year, like HCS might not exist because it doesn't have the viewership to sustain, like it being an esport. And so I think Joey's approach and some of the more successful collegiate programs are the ones that get their students into the real world and also broadly teach them the skills to be successful in any sort of business setting, whether it's esports or traditional business. And so we actually, we run 2 internship programs that are exclusive to Shenandoah. We've had a number of interns from other colleges as well. And for us, it's always, you are experiencing kind of the crazy startup ecosystem that is esports, and that's really the best education you can kind of get out of the space. So,
thank you both for that. And Neil, I don't know, I feel like eFuse is doing so many amazing things. I'm not even actually sure if this is a tagline that you still use, but I know at one point it was sort of like the LinkedIn and esports, and so there's obviously an important focus on the jobs from the work that you do.
Yeah, and thanks. And it is a tagline. We don't use that often.
Yeah.
Now we've shifted more to meet, compete, and get discovered. But we want to be a destination. When you think of collegiate esports, there's 4 key pillars. So we want to think of it from the direction of education, competition, community, and graduation. And when you think of all those 4 combined, that's how you create a great student experience. That's how you create great leaders for tomorrow. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Being involved in whether it's social, casual, semi-competitive, or competitive gaming on campus, it's all about developing great leaders, developing great talent. And whether they're an accountant or marketing or engineering or social sciences, I was a history major, so I'm so thrilled to be in this building. But it's not, what I learned in the classroom around history doesn't necessarily translate to what I'm doing in my job today. But what I did learn when I was at the University of Western Ontario, if there's any Canadians in the audience, was having a great student experience and developing those soft skills, developing that networking, developing how to communicate, developing timelines, and how to deliver on stuff that you say you're going to deliver on. And I think that's what we really need to deliver for the next generation of collegiate esports talent. And one of the things I'll say that we do great at eFuse is really look at these communities and how do we graduate them through, whether it's some of the scholastic combines that we did for Overwatch and various other titles, League of Legends, Valorant. And then we've now brought in CCA, CCL, CFL, and then giving them opportunities once they graduate beyond school to actually participate in some of our creator events or influencer events, or whether they want to write on our blogs or working with Helena and her great team creating content. It's just so much bigger than being just an esports major or just a path to pros. We want to look at it as developing great talent and great leaders for tomorrow.
I love that. And Sari, I've heard you talk so many times about all of the different kind of career opportunities there. It's something that we talk about a lot at the Gamers because it's amazing that there will be students and also parents of students who are asking questions and kind of thinking like, what will this prepare me for? What industry and what types of careers there are. So I love the program at Full Sail, and I feel like it really sets students up for success after Full Sail.
Thank you. We love it too. And that really is the main focus, right? Is that those that want to work in fields of entertainment, particularly in fields of esports, are going to be a different type of person. And so we also just launched a esports program, and I don't want to belittle that, but you don't need a degree in esports to be able to work in esports. And so it's awesome that we have them to support it. I know Shenandoah's got an amazing one, but it's not necessary. The biggest thing to me that I always try to communicate to anybody that this is a space that you want to work in is we're looking for a certain type of person. Grant really did an awesome job highlighting that this changes all the time, every day. You don't have the ability to learn everything there is to learn about esports and then go off onto your career and have a great life. You have to be willing to and committed to reinvest yourself every single day on what changed between the day before and the day now and where your strategy is going to go moving forward. So like a 5-year strategic plan is awesome and should be very loose because you have to constantly evolve as the industry evolves and change as the industry changes and be able to work from the publisher side of things. They talked about it on the previous panel of just really understanding what the publisher owns and how that's going to affect league operations and gameplay moving forward. And so that's really the end all be all is if you are the type of person that really wants to be able to get involved in an industry that is growing and changing every day, and you're willing to be that person that commits your education and recommits your growth to understanding the space and how it can go every day, then this could be the path for you. And then from that point, whether it's accounting, public relations, communications, a lot of personal brand opportunities, a lot of just in general content creation opportunities, all of those exist here. The thing I always try to say without really hurting anyone's feelings is loving esports is not enough to get you a job in esports. And it is so great that you love it, and I love that you love it, and I want everybody to love it. But that's a great place to start. And then from there, it does require building your education, making sure that you have enough of a backbone to what you want to do, and really getting started and getting that experience. But the actual avenues themselves, they're endless. You just have to be focused and committed and ready to go on one of those paths.
No, and I think just to add on, I know, it kind of gets a little preachy when sometimes we say, you really need to think about what it's going to be like working in esports before you decide you want to even try to get a job in the industry, right? It is such a weird personal philosophy to take what is your hobby or your passion and try to make it a career. And for some people, it's great and it works out really well, and it kind of enables you to throw yourself into your work. But for some people, you burn out basically on the thing that you love the most, and you can walk away kind of hating it, right? And I think that's a weird kind of thing that requires a lot of personal soul searching, which I hope you do before you kind of pursue a job. And then really the idea of, you have to be so excited about things constantly changing and basically not knowing what is going on. And that is such a weird thing for folks to get comfortable with, right? Accountants, I always pick on accountants. I don't know why we all do. I'm sure there's some lovely accountants in the room, and they're very important. But you can have a very nice corporate job where you go in, you have your cup of coffee at 9:30, you're going to send about 50 emails a day or whatever, you're going to have a meeting at 2 o'clock, and that is a regiment that you follow. That does not exist in esports, at least not on the team side. I don't think so on the collegiate side, and maybe it's starting to get there on the publishing side of the business. But for us, it's are you excited to come in at let's be honest, we start at 10 a.m. So come in at 10 a.m. and ship 300 jerseys across the country because UPS didn't deliver a package because the player was asleep. That should be really exciting to you. And if it's not, maybe don't work in esports. But if it is, we'd love to have you.
But Grant also gets excited about P&L sheets. Just so you know, he loves his P&Ls, and he loves to trash your pitch decks that you provide. And he loves to wear hoodies. So again, that's that lifestyle he loves. He didn't get the memo about.
There are perks to working in esports, right? One is we like cool shoes, we like cool hoodies, right? What?
How about the socks?
Yeah, cool socks.
Okay,
right?
cool.
But no, I think P&Ls. Joey likes to rip on me for P&Ls, and some of my staff are here, and they'll tell you I come from a consulting mindset, right? We destroy decks all day. I'm pretty sure there is a part of me that just loves looking at shitty pitch decks and deleting them. And that's really fun, right? And so there are things that are nice about working in kind of a loose, fast-changing startup environment, but there is a lot of downside that I think people don't think about before they decide to get into the industry, and just something to think about.
And also you do that for students. Students always say that Grant's class is the hardest class they're taking at SU because of the pitch decks that he requires them to make and how tough they are. So he's definitely doing something right and preparing them for the industry. Again, that's the whole goal that we have here. And I think, Sarah, you had a great point. You don't need an esports degree to work in esports. That is absolutely not the point of an esports degree. It shouldn't be. I get what's on Twitter a lot. I get how people react to an esports degree. Oh, that's fake. Fake degree, fake school. It is not the path to a job in esports. It is a path, right? And we're giving students a chance to, again, study what they love to do, but again, get them those skills that work outside of it. It's similar to almost sport management. And that's my background. That's what I have my PhD is in sport management. And it's similar for a lot of students in there. And to Grant's point, I tell students on the first day of class, if you love sports, you might not want to get a sport management degree to try to work in sports because you will be tired of it, right? I used to go home every day and play video games to get away from sports. Now I do the exact opposite. Now I have to go home and watch sports to get away from video games for a little while as that release. So yeah, you're exactly right. If you're passionate about that, be careful what you work in because you are inundated constantly with that.
And I think look, it's not to roast sport management majors because I know there's at least two in the room and Lisa's here. So, but no, it's an interesting thing where if you're a student, and I realize not all of your students, but if you're a student debating what degree program to go into, there are perks to specializing, right, and going into a master's in sports management program or going into an esports major, but you have to take what those programs give you and find, you know, the advantage there, right? Because otherwise, like, I go through this equation all the time where it's like, why wouldn't I just hire someone with an MBA? Like, it's just a flat out, like, an MBA teaches you all the skills, it's a 2-year program, right? Like, it's just a weird equation that you guys need to figure out in terms of, like, are you going to get a significant enough specialization or advantage from that specialized program that outweighs just getting an MBA?
Here's an issue that I've got with esports degrees, and I was an esports professor last year at Durham College. I think a lot of the times it's marketing lingo wrapped up to try and attract new students as a vehicle for additional enrollment, and it's not putting the student mindset first. It's not putting the end result first, but it's trying to get more students through the door, which generates more tuition, which makes the college more profitable. The same issue I've got with a lot of the esports scholarships programs is there's, I don't know, 400, 500 schools now that offer either varsity status, partial scholarships, full scholarships, but a lot of the times that might be, you know, a $2,000 scholarship on a $24,000 tuition. And that's the really unfortunate part of it is you're setting students up for a challenging couple of years because it's not really a scholarship the way that you think of it, right? It's not a football scholarship or basketball scholarship. And some schools are excellent and they give amazing scholarships and all the support behind it, but a lot of them don't. So until we can get the institutions bought in at the highest level, that esports is a pathway for developing great leaders, developing great students, and they're going to put that same emphasis behind it to attract that talent, retain that talent, and invest in that talent, collegiate esports is not going to be considered on the same level as some of the other traditional sports.
Well, I don't know if we want to have this conversation now, but like, we don't even know what the point of competitive collegiate esports is, right? And I feel this is like something that gets thrown around all the time, but like a lot of those scholarships are like almost predatory in a lot of ways where, you know, you're preying on this 18-year-old kid who's really passionate about Overwatch or League of Legends. You know, they're honestly probably spending more time playing the game than they are studying academically, right? And so they're excited. They get offered, you know, half a scholarship to go to a small university. Their parents pay out for the rest, or they take out loans, and they're doing it with the aspirations of, you know, having a professional career when it's over and done with. And, you know, I can tell you as somebody who runs a professional team, like, we don't want you when you're 22. We want you when you're 18, right? We want you when you're 17. We want you when you're 16, before your parent, you know, when your parents even have to sign a consent form for you to come play with us, right? Like, the aging out of professional players in esports happens at such a young age that, like, there is not a traditional pathway where you can become necessarily a pro player by going to college first, right? And I think there's a few exceptions, and I know those stories always get highlighted, and it's great, but like, the vast majority of players are going to go pro before they go to college.
And on the scholarship thing, traditional sports has been doing this too. D2 schools in the NCAA will offer $500, $1,000 a semester for a student that still has to pay the rest of that tuition, but their parents want them to take that scholarship to say, oh, my son or daughter is on a baseball scholarship to play in college. Right? Well, whoop-de-doo. Because it's, like I said, $500 a semester instead of that full ride. Because when you think of collegiate sports, you think of the Alabamas, the Georgias of the world, or Ohio States, or Penn State, so they get full ride scholarships. And yeah, Neil was saying that there are some schools that offer really good scholarship programs, full ride scholarships to compete in esports. That's not a lot of schools right now, though. And it does get predatory in nature, but this is not dissimilar for what we've also seen in some traditional sports. Students need to do their homework, do their research for what makes sense to them, and where they have the best opportunity. We don't offer scholarships at SU. It makes it really hard to compete against schools that offer full ride scholarships. So we got to work on that so we don't compete against Maryville or Harrisburg or Northwood, because those are really good collegiate schools. The big schools are coming. I mean, we've got Maryland here, and these big D1 schools that you've heard of in traditional sports are now, they've been a little slower for the most part to get in the game. Pun intended? We'll go with it. But they're definitely coming on that competitive side to really build these beautiful facilities. If you get a chance to visit a college that has an esports program, go find their esports facility, because some of them are absolutely incredible. I think NC State getting, $16 million to build a $12 million brick and mortar, $4 million mobile esports arena. I mean, that's just insane to think about. And I know we've talked a lot about academics up here, but it's the academics and the competitive And I love what Grant said. We don't really know the purpose and what's going on that competitive side, except that it's almost like a D3 model. You're going to school to do what you love to do, to hopefully get a high quality education while you're there competing in D3 football, D3 lacrosse, D3 Rocket League, whatever you want to compete in. So to me, that's what I see the purpose of esports and competitive in college. And I know I am not planting my flag and winning a national championship against these full-ride scholarship schools. Sorry, y'all that play. But it's really tough to do that. But if I can train broadcast production people, or if I can get people to come and network with professionals in the industry, that's where I see the real value of what esports can offer in higher ed. So yeah, it's a complicated space for sure. But thank goodness we got people like this that are helping to steer that really cumbersome ship the right way.
Yeah,
Real quick, I just want to add on to what Joey and Grant were saying, kind of pivot a little bit. We do offer scholarships, but they are not for recruitment, so you have to be an existing student to earn a scholarship. And they are esports-specific scholarships, but they are in the fields of leadership, communication, broadcasting, technical skills and abilities. They are not gameplay scholarships. They are industry-related scholarships that students earn once they're in their art program. Because everything that they're saying is correct, and everything that Neil was saying is correct in regards to the competitive scene and really where it's going, and I guess what's the point? But it's the fact of what esports can bring to students in college is so beyond the gameplay component, and it is so funneled into the industry, and there are a lot of schools that do support things from that perspective. And so understanding like the breadth of what a scholarship program could entail, which yes, for playing for your 2 to 4 years that you're in college, some schools are doing that and they're winning a ton of championships. We are also on the not winning championships conversation. But again, our goal is to really just provide something that students can experience while they're here that they not only love, but that they're getting these other basic skills for that are going to help them either in the esports industry or beyond. We have a ton of students that earn our esports scholarships that don't go on to work in esports, but they're getting them for things like communication, leadership, broadcast ability, production, and those are transferable skills and those are transferable experiences that they can use within esports and beyond.
Thank you. Yeah, that's so important. Before I go any further, I have to thank you, Grant, for bringing up the point about pitch decks, because as someone who's been building a business for 2 years in this industry, we're in the middle of a capital raise right now. I have definitely sat in a room and had someone destroy my pitch deck right in front of me.
Joey's just mad because I did it to his piano, for what it's worth.
True.
It's fine.
So we talked about some of these, but I thought it would be valuable for everybody to hear the four of you talk a little bit about challenges in the space. And I think that, how I can frame it is, I've been in this industry at the Gamehers for about 2.5 years. In that time, the collegiate esports space has changed so monumentally, but I don't even know if I could sort of put my finger on exactly how. I mean, it was fragmented. Is it still fragmented? Is it diverse? Is it easy to start a program? Is it it's such a huge question. But what do you think some of the challenges are right now, today? And then, also, like, where are we going? And how are those challenges going to be overcome to get us there? And, each of you can kind of take that however you want. Sarah, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, please.
Joey's like, I want to
Yeah,
go
somebody
first.
else go first on
Or
this one.
anybody else.
I do think that a lot of people will cite the fragmented nature of collegiate esports as a challenge, but I kind of also look at it as opportunity. Having various levels of regulation is what allows you to have things like programs that exist on the industry itself or have a foundation on the industry itself beyond competitive because of the way a lot of these areas are structured. Obviously a personal passion, so I'll just go into, I think the biggest challenge that we have is toxicity and diversity. And I think that they're wrapped up in each other, and it's really hard to break that cycle because not being able to see representation of your communities in either leadership or forward-facing opportunities prohibits the next generation of those in the inclusivity nature of really being able to come through. And it's one of those aspects to me that it feels like everybody kind of has to band together to really help elevate and showcase and find different opportunities for diverse representation. An example that we had on campus is, we our campus is primarily male. Our competitive players, our varsity players are primarily male. We have all genders represented on our teams, but what we did was we pivoted and started a stream team of content creators because that was able to help bring more diversity into our varsity program, which can help other people see. And we found that starting a stream team where we did get a lot of various genders that really wanted to participate, opened the doors up for some of our competitive teams of people just starting to feel a little bit more comfortable and being connected in that regards. The toxicity problem is big, and it's big everywhere, and it's big from youth all the way up to pro. And so the other thing that I always try to sort of highlight, something that we deal with a ton, is I think the majority of what we are worrying about and dealing with as far as toxic behavior goes is a lot of it is in the realm of like microaggressions. I don't think it's people that think they're being toxic. I don't think it's people that realize, yes, there are so many make me a sandwich comments that I can't even get myself through. And there are those, but I think the majority of the problem that we have is people don't realize that that's what is happening, and they don't realize that's what they're doing, and they've just been in it this whole time. And so it's really up to everyone to just continue to educate, not just commit to not being toxic, but to also commit to combating toxicity and just sort of teaching everybody how to navigate through these toxic behaviors, because I really want to believe, and I feel like I've seen it, we're not drowning in people that just hate everybody and that just want to bring toxic behavior. It's learned, and it's the group, and it's just where it kind of all exists. And so breaking that down, I think, is super important, and just probably the biggest challenge that we face to date. It's pretty regular in varsity competitive programming. We see it in person on campuses, and so that's just something that I think is probably our number one challenge. I think number one challenge industry-wide, but we're all going to commit together to make it better.
Yeah, I mean, at the Gamehers, we realized very quickly after we launched that we needed to learn as much as possible about the collegiate space because it's so relevant. And it took us basically a year from the moment that we decided to start exploring it to launch an actual official initiative in collegiate, which is we launched a collegiate Discord. And it's been really incredible and just a lot of conversation going on. But some of the themes that have come out of it are really about just that. Like, it is going to sort of take everybody at every single level and piece of the industry and the organizations. And one of the number one things that is sort of being asked of us to do, which we're definitely going to do in the fall, is host everything, conferences, meetings, discussions that include students, administrators, coaches, but again, I don't think it's not coming from for the most part, really not from a place of people thinking I'm going to go be toxic. It's just it's kind of existed, and so I think the more discussion around it, the closer we'll get to the place where we want to be. So I agree with you on that. So thank you.
I think that's an interesting point because a lot of the toxicity is either permitted or allowed from leadership, and that whether that's admins, coaches, volunteers, whoever it may be, if you allow it, you're accepting it. And essentially that's an endorsement for it. And I really disagree with that. I think there's three things that we're really struggling with in collegiate esports. Toxicity is certainly one of them. You made great points on that, so I won't add too much on that. The two other points I want to make are really the varying levels of publisher approvals. So some leagues operate completely on side with endorsements, approvals, and licenses and try to govern in a really appropriate way. And there's other leagues that don't, and they just put stuff up and say, I'm probably not going to get shut down. And I think that's tough on the students. It's tough on the coaches and admins to schedule and operate. And then it's tough on people who are trying to do it the right way and have traditionally tried to do it with the proper channels. And then the third piece, which is the world that I operate in on the day-to-day and live in, is how do you make money in collegiate esports, right? Like the revenue side of it. When you look at there's different tiers, there's different rankings, there's different leagues, there's different operators, there's different streams. You've got these channels that are unpredictable. There's forfeits that maybe the students show up to the broadcast, maybe they don't. How are we supposed to get brands and partners and sponsors not only on side, booked, but then re-sign them when it's a little bit still nascent and unproven? And I think that's the biggest challenge that we all have to figure out if we're going to get Coca-Cola or Doritos or General Mills or some of these major brands on side that everybody says, oh, it makes sense, you're targeting to youth and students. But then the people that are actually the mid-level marketing folks who have KPIs and deliverables and work back schedules, you need to make sure you're ticking all those off so that they don't look like jackasses by under-delivering in their job. And I think that's something that the industry of collegiate esports is still very much struggling with. We've grown leaps and bounds in the 7 or 8 years that I've been selling partnerships, but we're still a long way to go. And I'll be the first to admit that from across the board.
Yeah, I mean, Neil kind of stole mine, but I'll just add it from a professional perspective, I guess. I always feel bad saying this because I think we're not trying to depress people, right? Like, we all obviously work in esports and, like, we're passionate about it, but, like, there are real challenges, and again, you have to really love it to kind of be in it. And so I think the biggest challenge for me is just what works in esports, right? Like, holistically, like, what part of esports works? And right now, really the only answer is publishers make a shit ton of money selling games.
Yeah.
And that's basically it, right? And there's, like, some small stuff, right? Like, brands sometimes get value, agencies can kind of make a decent amount of money if they're decent at what they do. But, like, for teams, for colleges, for leagues for the most part, none of the economics work, right? And it's all propped up by investor money, or the publishers are actually supporting the leagues, right, and whatnot. So, holistically, we need to figure that out, right? We need to I think we've all kind of come to the conclusion that we have a captive audience. They're 18 to 34, right, mostly males. They spend more. They're more educated than your average folk, right? Like, they're the audience that brands want to get to. But there are a lot of issues in between getting that brand to write you a 7-figure check and getting them in front of that audience, right? And whether it's bots on streams, whether it's the streams not happening, whether it's weird media rights deals, whether it's players, games wean and flux in popularity, right? Like, there's all these different reasons that for a brand, they're like, yeah, I'm just going to go sponsor the NFL and pay 10x, right? Or sponsor the NBA and pay 5x, right? So it's not meant to depress you guys. Like, obviously, it's an industry that we care about and are passionate about. But, like, the biggest challenge is we need to kind of make the economics work. And that's why I tell Joey, you live by your P&L.
P&L. Yeah, and it's kind of nice going last because I can say, yeah, that, yep, that. Neil, thank you for bringing up forfeits. I hate forfeits. Micaiah, we're writing a policy to get no forfeits next year. Our people will be there on time, no reschedules. We're not doing forfeits because that is like plaguing collegiate esports right now, and it's bad for everybody. It's bad for the student experience. It's bad for our work study students, Alexander casting, and then all of a sudden, oh, the other team forfeited. Thanks for showing up and dressing up nice and getting ready to cast this game that you worked on. You can go home now. So forfeits are a nightmare right now. In fact, some organizers I've talked to said if we get 40% or less forfeits, that is a good thing. I'm like, 40%? In what world is 40% okay in any collegiate sport? Like, you would never see that. And I know esports is not where traditional sports are, I get it, but we've got to do better at the forfeit part. But I want to add in also qualified faculty and staff to help run these programs on campuses. That is a really big issue right now. It's the number one question that we get when we're working to develop esports academic programs, certificates, minors, majors, whatever, is who do I get to teach this? I'm like, yep, good luck. I mean, thank goodness, and it pains me, but Grant's one of the smartest guys I know, so thank goodness we have him to help teach our students what it's like.
I'm not paying him for this, by the way, just so that we're clear.
He'll give me a drink later. So qualified faculty is a really, really tough one. We're getting there. It's just taking time to get people that understand higher education and esports. Because what we've seen is people that understand higher ed or esports are running programs. Now we're starting to see people get that mix, and it's definitely getting there. I mean, we've got some great hires. I mentioned Maryland. I mentioned Radford. There are some great programs out there that are hiring people that understand both sides of it finally, because a lot of directors at colleges are like 22-year-olds that played on their League of Legends teams that are now directing their collegiate program. That is a dangerous situation. Not that they can't do it, but it can be very dangerous to give them that autonomy sometimes in higher ed. Because, Neil, I think you said it, a lot of administrators see, oh, it's marketing because esports is exciting right now, so let's offer esports. But really don't know who's going to be in charge of it or who's going to be teaching these classes. So they esportsify, God, I hate that term. They esportsify existing education, and that's not the way that you teach esports or have it as part of a collegiate program. So I'll just add that one in because, yes, diversity, toxicity, massive issues. The IP and the publishers are generating revenue, massive issues, understanding that side of it. But I think also, and that's where I go because I'm a professor, is qualified faculty is a bigger issue as we continue to get more and more programs over like 500 schools. Neil, I think you said that over 500 schools have some kind of varsity program now. And on the academic side, there's only a handful that have esports majors, but there are a lot that have esports programs, and there are hundreds that have at least one esports class. And that is only continuing to grow. And so we're looking for those qualified faculty, qualified staff that understand how it can and should operate in higher ed, not even to mention what's happening at the K-12 level, because this is about collegiate, not K-12, and I know we're getting close on time, and we're the last one before lunch, so we do not want to go over time and keep you all from lunch.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, like, it's not that I love teaching, by the way, and I realize there's a lot of educators in the world, but like, it really is like in our best interest as folks who work in professional esports to take the time to educate students, because, you know, hopefully I'm going to need to hire, 18 of Joey's kids at some point, right? And, it's kind of like a self-serving act in a lot of ways where, if you don't have folks who are actively working in the industry teaching these classes and teaching students about what it's like to be in the industry and giving them real-world experience, you get a bunch of people who graduate who ultimately aren't qualified to do anything, and then I have no one to hire to run my team, right? And like, I think we have this problem in esports where, like, it's a weird model of, like, we are not trying to gatekeep people out of esports. We just want people to be qualified to get them into esports, right? And I think how you go about qualifying them, like Joey mentioned, is really challenging, and finding people who actually have the skills to work in the industry on top of just being passionate about it, right? Like, I think when Neil and I got into esports, right, like, the qualification was like, do you have some sort of business background? And like, do you love esports, right? Like, do you love video games? Like, I was like, yeah, I love GoldenEye. Like, that was basically the qualification back then. And like, now it's like, cool, have you run like 3 collegiate tournaments? Like, do you know how to put on a broadcast? Like, do you know how to put together a pitch deck that I actually want to read, right? Like, there's all of these things that we need folks who are educated and ready to join, our workforce, and there's just not enough of them.
And real quickly, if y'all want to speak in any of my classes, please let me know.
Yeah.
I would love to get y'all in front of students, or meet with some of the students that we have here, not just from SU, but from all the colleges and universities across the country. Get involved, because the space needs the leaders like you all to help get in the classroom, get in front of students, and to work with them, to tell them, and me, educate me about what you're looking for by the time students graduate.
Thank you. I'm sure we could probably continue this discussion for a couple more hours, but we probably are at time, right?
We'll skip lunch. We'll just keep talking. I'm sure people will love that.
I know we started late, so I'm not sure when we're supposed to end, but 2 minutes, okay. Any last comments? I mean, the other topic I was going to talk
Do we
about.
want to take questions? I think
Yeah.
we have questions.
Oh yeah, great. Let's do it.
Thanks, John.
Hi, I'm Lisa Delpy, Professor of Sports Management and Esports at George Washington University, and also the Faculty Director of the GW Esports Club. So everything that you were saying was great. I do want to emphasize that in our class, we are in a business school, so they do get a business degree on top of the sports management and eSport class that we offer. But if any of you have projects, I think working with students on real-life projects is great. So if anybody wants to meet with me afterwards, and again with guest speaking, always up for that. Grant has been great for our program as well. And I also want to say, the universities are looking at this beyond just admissions and money. It's quality of life for the students and getting them out of their dorm room and providing some structure around it. So, I wanted to add that component because it's not all about money for what we're looking at. It's the fastest growing club that we have on campus, and we're trying to find a way to support all those students, whether it's recreation or more competitive. And it is challenging because where's the money come from? Where's the coaching come from? What games? So it's very complex.
I think that's a really great point you make. And I know that we talked about a lot of tough topics, and we said a lot of, probably more honest things than people are used to hearing. But I think anybody in the room or any brand or partner that's out there, the collegiate esports space is probably one of the most exciting spots to get involved in right now, because you can be a foundation builder. You can be a part of it from its earliest days, and you can help transform and grow and build this space to be whatever we want it to be. And although Grant and I are fossils being in it for 8 years, it's still just beginning. And the leaders that are going to be there in 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 years are the people that are about to enter the programs now, or that are in the programs. They're going to graduate, and they've gone through it from a firsthand experience, and they're going to become those people that actually help take our ideas and concepts improve on them, iterate on them, and then in 15 or 20 years back, we're going to look at what collegiate esports is, and we're not even going to recognize it because it's going to stand alongside, my opinion, in North America, it'll probably be the third biggest sport in this country in 20 years' time, behind college football and college basketball. And I'll say that definitively. I really believe that. But it's just getting started. So if you want to be in this space, now's the time to get in. Put your hand up. Every opinion should be heard. Anybody that wants to put money at it, try and invest it in a smart and reasonable way. You've got a lot of people and resources that you can talk to about what's worked and also what hasn't worked, and make those dollars go a lot farther than they did 2 or 3 or 4 years ago.
Well, yeah, and on the brand side, the ones who see success are the ones who get in now and have a true long-term mindset behind it, right? They want to build something that's special, that's innovative. Like, the nicest thing about being a brand that wants to get into esports is there's no playbook. There's no set of rules that you have to live behind, right? Like, you know, I used to work at Monumental, and I remember how some of those sellers did partnerships, and there was a rate card, right? It was, how much courtside signage do you want? Here's how much it costs. You get 60 seconds, your logo shows up, and like, that's it. It was very transactional, right? None of our partnerships, you know, we have partnerships with Events DC, who's putting on this event, I think, or is a partner, you know, McDonald's, PenFed, all of them were never in esports before. It was the first time they were getting into the space, and they're long-term deals, right? For brands who want to grow with us, they have customized packages, right? And none of it is cookie cutter. And so I think, to Neil's point, if you're a brand that wants to get into the space, you just have to have the right mindset and go about it in a way that makes sense for you. And, you know, probably don't give Joey 8 figures right off the bat, but like,
why not?
unless you want to.
I see no problem with this.
Yeah, and I think just to add on to Lisa's point, you know, their program has been great. So anybody who wants to get involved, and I think the returns, you know, Joey, correct me if I'm wrong, but every intern that we've had has gone on to get full-time employment in the space.
The ones that have graduated,
The ones that have graduated,
yes.
And then from Lisa's program, you know, Jordan, who you'll hear from later, was my capstone student. He has had a full-time job at Monumental and the Islanders, right? Great. Yeah, I mean, it's super rewarding, you know, especially when you can have kind of an opportunity to educate folks and get them, you know, great careers later on.
Great. Well, thanks to all of you. This has been such a fun conversation, and hope we can continue it. I think all of us are pretty accessible.
Please don't add me on LinkedIn. Please do not send me a LinkedIn message. Please follow me on Twitter, DM me, email me. I will happily give you my email. Please do not add me on LinkedIn. That is the one rule of esports. I swear to God.
Does everybody else want to say if they're allowed to add on LinkedIn?
You can add me on LinkedIn.
You can add me, but like, all right, you can add me, but don't message me. Jesus.
Yeah. Emails and Discord is better.
That's pretty funny. Okay, well, thank you very much. It's been a great chat, and with that, I think we're finished. Lunch.
Thank you all.
Lunch.